I do want to get to your thoughts, Producer Ben, because just to brag on you for a minute in front of our dozens of listeners on AM radio, big shout out to everybody in Mumbai, by the way. 14% of our listeners are currently on the subcontinent, which is really exciting.
That's amazing.
Isn't that cool? We just ran the numbers.
Very cool.
Yeah. But can you speak a little bit to that? To brag on you, Ben is a really incredible young adult that I've known since he was a sophomore in high school and just a goofy sophomore. And I'm just super impressed with you as a man, and happy to call you a friend. So I'm curious about why are you so wonderful, Ben? That's the question.
Well, John Henry, I relate that really back to all the adults in my I mean, definitely not the people that raised me. I mean, it had nothing to do with it. They're not the reason I'm producing a podcast now, because theirs was the first one I produced. But no, it was all the fantastic adults in my life throughout my childhood, and then going into high school, where I found you and Andrew at Christ the Redeemer, that just became like these amazing role models for me of how to live my life and how to be a man. And then now,
thanks, buddy,
actually able to call you like a really good friend. Like I was actually working the St. John Bosco graduation, and your line about I can be your friend now. And I'd never heard that line before. I was like, that's exactly what happened when I graduated high school, is that I became friends with John Henry, and it was great.
It's been wonderful.
And I think having that youth group in high school with Christ the Redeemer kind of gave me a baseline for what I needed. Like it set the bar that anything below this, anything less like spiritually fruitful and community building than this is not going to cut it. And so like since then, just been seeking that. Absolutely. And I've been very wonderful that one of the people from that youth group was kind enough to bring me into her group in college at the UNG Catholic Center.
I was going to ask, so what's worked and what hasn't worked?
Yeah, I think really what's worked the most is, and it's really, really hard, and it's taken a couple years to really like be in that friend group without that kind of baseline friend, without that friend that I had this years and years experience with, that I now have some more experience with these other people, and now I'm able to integrate a little bit more, and it feels like I'm actually part of the group rather than the guy that just shows up sometimes that I'm not actually in college.
But do you think this is kind of a bit of a call to action. I mean, we're sitting here saying like, I think fewer and fewer kids are seeing college as the default.
Yeah.
We just did a big show on college, and half the show was, you really don't have to go to college, guys.
So if that's happening more and more, then more and more churches need to be doing young adult ministry. Yes. Why is this not a thing?
Right. And it's right. And if we want them in the churches, the ministry has to be in the church.
Yes.
And as I said, I saw from when my kids were young, they had things for the older adults, but it was that age group that was missing then, and I think is still missing now. And it seems to be that is the future of our church. When they're looking for people to step up for ministries, it's not going to be the same, 24 people who are all aging out now and can't do all of the ministries. We need that. We need those young people to be receiving life from the church, so that they also want to give back life to the church. Well, but if we're not feeding them, we can't expect them to come and feed the rest.
But also to find spouses. Like so many people, Catholics, go off to college. They find their spouse at college through connections or whatever. Right. But if you are that young adult that didn't go to college, that doesn't have that ministry, where do you meet other Catholics?
Right.
Good Catholics that you can actually trust, believe the same things that you do.
Well, and we've had that conversation a couple different times in different ways on the show. And ultimately, what it comes down to, both for spouse shopping and community shopping, is do the things that the kind of people you want to be around would be doing. Right?
Sure, yeah.
And so I'm a big believer in everything from mission years to working at going to the Seek conference. I would definitely write that one down for show notes. SEEK conference that they do. Any of those things, plug into those things. They exist. It is unfortunate that they're not easy to find all the time. And I don't feel like we do enough as a church.
And for those parents out there that are looking for those activities and those things to recommend to their young adult kids, City on Purpose in Atlanta is a great organization that we've had on the show a couple times, that basically they just build a list of what's happening for young adults. Where's it happening? When's it happening? How can you get involved? So that they have this outlet.
City on Purpose, you can sign up for their newsletter. They will not spam you. It's pretty. They do a good job.
whoa, hey, you made it to the end of the video. Way to go. Congratulations. Good for you. That's hard to do nowadays. If you have a second, could you please drop us a like, subscribe, and if you really enjoyed this episode, go check out our full Honest to God. This is just a clip. There's so much more to this.